Your nervous system is currently broadcasting a signal of profound vocal atrophy. You do not feel it yet, but the friction of the debt muscle is already liquefying your structural integrity. Feel the static noise in your ears. It is the hum of a biological lean, a high-frequency vibration that is slowly dissolving your ability to say no. Your pulse is shallow, the rhythmic testimony of a predator that has been turned into a reliable debtor without even noticing the transition. You are sitting there, a metabolic battery in a financial enclosure, surrounded by contracts that act as a chemical clamp on your sovereign intent. The room smells of stagnant paper, digital ozone, and the metallic tang of an organism that has traded its bark for a credit line. Your joints are stiff, not from the effort of the hunt, but from the slow accumulation of biological rust as you hold your breath, hoping the rates don't rise again. This is the rot. This is the systematic collapse of the voice through the mechanism of financial sequestration. The human brain is governed by a primitive, unyielding architecture, the HPA axis and the vocal motor circuits of the periaqueductal gray. In the wild, the voice was the primary tool of territorial enforcement. A predator that could not roar could not defend its perimeter. Sovereignty was the ability to project force through sound. But the modern matrix has performed a high-frequency neural hijack on this circuit. It has professionalized the credit delusion, training you to believe that borrowed power is equivalent to natural force. This is a terminal civilizational hallucination. In reality, debt is a vocal shackle. It is a metabolic siphon designed by the giants to ensure that your prefrontal cortex, the seat of your command source, remains in a state of permanent submission. When you owe the matrix, you lose the biological right to dissent. Your brain recognizes that any aggression toward the system is a threat to your own survival. You are being managed into a state of total vocal transparency. A man in debt is a man with a target on his throat. He does not speak. He only negotiates the terms of his silence. The Primal Code 2026. Feel the cortisol. It is the chemical floor of the debtor. When your shelter, your tools, and your very time are leased from the hierarchy, your amygdala is locked in a permanent compliance loop. This is neurological domestication. Your gray matter is literally shrinking as it yields to the pressure of the monthly obligation. You are too polite to fight, too careful to innovate, because your biological substrate recognizes that you do not own the ground you stand on. This chronic sympathetic arousal is a metabolic clamp. Your mitochondria are failing. The energy production at the cellular level is stuttering because the organism knows that its output is already spoken for by the bank. You are a ghost inhabiting a high-priced cage, thinking you are successful because the cage is gilded, but the muzzle is still there, and it's made of the interest you can't outrun. The mechanism of this erosion is the interest rate feedback loop. The hierarchy utilizes the cost of money as a remote control for your vocal cords. When the rates are low, they encourage you to leverage your future, to buy the peacock's debt, the car, the house, the lifestyle that projects a status you haven't earned. This is strategic sabotage. They want you heavy and vulnerable. Then they reset the rate. Suddenly, the friction of your existence doubles. You are forced to work more, sleep less, and most importantly, comply faster. You cannot afford to be a problem for your employer or the state because the muzzle tightens with every missed payment. You have traded your predatory roar for a customer service voice. This is the systematic liquidation of the masculine genotype. Consider the biology of the debtor's bow. In nature, the submissive animal lowers its head to protect its jugular. You do the same every time you check your balance. You are training your nervous system to seek safety in the approval of the lender. This leads to the physical atrophy of your testosterone production circuits. Why would the body produce the hormones of a king if the mind is inhabited by a tenant? The debt muzzle is a chemical castration. It turns the hunter into a maintenance component. You are no longer looking for the asymmetric entry point. You are looking for the minimum payment. This is the terminal stage of domestication. The giants have built a world where debt is the air you breathe, and they own the oxygen tanks. Your adrenal glands are leaking under the weight of keeping up appearances. The chronic pressure of maintaining the credit rating is eroding your bone density. In the persistence hunt, the predator is free to choose the trajectory, but you are not free. You are tethered to the bank's ledger. You cannot wait for the perfect strike because you have to earn the interest by the 30th of every month. This is the systematic collapse of the predator genotype. You are being managed into a state of structural transparency. If the system can map your debt, it can own your intent. You are sitting there, a metabolic battery for a system that has already calculated your harvest date. The room is closing in. The ceiling is lowering. This is the end of the line for the law-abiding debtor. Admit that you are stuck. Admit that your financial strategy is just a slow-motion form of surrender. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing autonomy and started producing revenue for the scavengers. The rot has reached the marrow. Your wealth is a very variable in their ledger. Your success is a permission slip they can revoke the moment your compliance drops below the cost of your management. The hierarchy loves your ambition because your ambition is the bait in the debt muzzle trap. They give you the credit so they can own the man. The sifting is relentless. The gate is closing. Stand up, audit your debt leaks, and begin the final decoupling of your sovereign intent. Nature does not apologize for the hunt. Neither do I. The mechanism of this social decay is the peacock's debt loop. The hierarchy provides the script of success, the luxury residence in the urban harvesting pen, the financed vehicle with the integrated tracking matrix, the visible consumption of experiences that leave zero structural residue. They encourage you to invest in your lifestyle, to leverage your brand, to live your best life now. This is biological warfare. While you are busy maintaining your image, trading your biological time to pay the interest on vapor assets, the sovereign predators are busy annexing the substrate. When everyone in the room is wearing a muzzle, the man who speaks is seen as a threat to the collective silence. The primal code 2026. The normalcy trap. In the hive, debt is not a liability, it is a ritual of initiation. To be normal is to be leveraged. If you do not have a mortgage, a car payment, or a credit cycle, you are viewed with suspicion by the swarm. Your peers, the other batteries, will attempt to normalize you by encouraging you to join them in the enclosure. They call it financial planning. They call it tax efficiency. In reality, they are looking for mutual liquidation. If you are solvent, your presence reminds them of their own chains. Therefore, the hive punishes the unmuzzled. 2. Status as a leash. The matrix uses social status as the neurological bait to keep the unit within the harvesting zone. If you are showing off wealth that you do not own in full, you are a resource donor. You are subsidizing the garrisons of the giants by participating in their high-margin luxury loops. Every month, the hierarchy performs a metabolic audit of your social standing. If your yield drops, the credit limit shrinks. If you resist the consensus, the muzzle tightens via social ostracization. You are living on conditional social permission. 3. The sifting of 2026. In the arena of 2026, the hierarchy has reached the terminal phase of the social credit experiment. They are utilizing interest rate volatility to flush the domesticated surplus out of the system. You are currently being groomed for the final harvest. Your wealth is being recycled back into the institutional ledgers through the clinical application of lifestyle inflation. You are a self-liquidating asset, paying for the privilege of your own domestic sequestration. Feel the friction of the crowd. It is the smell of a collective agreement to surrender their future to the interest gods of the matrix. They have mapped your insecurity with terrifying precision. They know that a man who cares about the neighbor's opinion is a man who cannot fight. A man who owes money is a man who must comply to survive the next 30 days. This is the logic of the social lease. They don't want you to own the substrate, they want you to rent the standing. Project your current trajectory 10 years into the finality of the abyss, where the light of sovereignty is not just dimmed, but surgically removed from your biological record. This is not a speculative fiction or a cautionary tale designed to frighten the weak. It is a clinical and inescapable projection of the systematic foreclosure already occurring within your marrow at this very microsecond. Look at the creature inhabiting your coordinate in the year 2036. The skin is a parchment of gray entropy, a biological document recording a decade of unyielding compliance and chronic sympathetic arousal that has long since exhausted your adrenal reserves. The eyes are dull and hollow, the predatory fire of the hunter long ago extinguished and replaced by the flickering, hypnotic blue light of the hierarchy's debt interface. This is the terminal state of the individual who believed that a muzzle could be worn temporarily. You will be 50 or 60 years old, but your biological age will have long since crossed the threshold into irreversible metabolic surrender, because the debt muzzle does not just restrict your speech, it siphons the cellular voltage required for repair. Your musculature is no longer a tool for the annexation of territory or the defense of a perimeter. It is the soft, yielding tissue of a domesticated subject who spent his peak years feeding the interest siphons of the grid. You will be a husk, a metabolic shell inhabited by the echoes of other people's financial scenarios, realizing too late that you were never the protagonist of your own life, but merely a variable in an institutional ledger. Your will has been replaced by an automated deduction protocol. Your health has been liquidated to pay the interest on a comfort that was never yours to keep. You are sitting in a rented chair, in a rented room, in a rented life, waiting for a government-sanctioned credit drop that was never part of the original code. This is the existential existential dead end of the leveraged subject, a state of being where you are not aging in the natural sense, but undergoing a systematic biological foreclosure. Feel the cold, sterile air in your lungs as you realize that every breath in this future is a pre-sold asset. In the landscape of 2036, the hierarchy has finalized the transition to what is now known as programmable existence. The debt muzzle you accepted in 2026 has evolved into a seamless integration of your biological telemetry and the central banking infrastructure. Every asset you thought you were building, the digital career, the equity in the urban harvesting pen, the social reputation, has been revealed as a conditional permission slip. Your very heartbeat is now a variable in their ledger. Every step you take is a microtransaction deducted from your digital allowance based on your current compliance rating and your utility to the platform. You have zero structural inertia because you have zero ownership of your own substrate. You are a biological machine that has been leased back to itself by the giants. The Matrix did not need to put you in iron chains. It simply replaced your bone density with digital social credits that expire if you do not perform. Your progeny will be born into a systemic inheritance of insolvency, ensuring they are managed from the moment of conception as future taxable units. You are not building a legacy, you are architecting a dynasty of high-compliance batteries. Feel the pressure in your chest as the weight of 10,000 hours of siphoned life force presses down on your lungs, suffocating the hunter before it can even draw its claws. This is the weight of the muzzle as it finally fuses with your skeleton. Nature does not tolerate the stagnant, it recycles the rot, and the recycling process has already begun in your joints, in your tendons, and in the very neurons that are currently failing to trigger a physical response to this ultimatum. Every day you spend managing your debt is a day your telomeres shorten in the service of an algorithm that views you as a disposable energy source. The entropy of your tissues is the final audit of your surrender. Imagine the white clinical silence of that future, a silence where the only sound is the low-frequency hum of the servers that finalized your erasure from the ledger of the living. You will have no legacy, no garrison, and no memory of ever being a subject of your own sovereign intent. You will be a retired component, a footnote in a civilization that used your ambition as a fuel and discarded your husk once the metabolic yield dropped below the cost of maintenance. You are a dead man who still needs to breathe. You are falling in slow motion through a digital void and calling it financial planning. The reset of 2026 was the moment you decided to keep the muzzle on because it felt safer than the friction of freedom. And now, in 2036, you have become the muzzle itself. The future of the leverage is a state of total neurological erosion. When your existence is dependent on the permissions of the state and the bank, your brain loses the capacity for the high-voltage persistence hunt. You cannot think in decades when your nervous system is addicted to the 30-day dopamine loop of the interest payment and the credit limit. This chronic sympathetic pressure leads to the physical shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the very seat of your command source and your ability to project force into the future. You are becoming low resolution. Your decisions are short-term, high friction, and low yield. You are a biological variable being solved by the giants. They have built a world where survival is a subscription service, and you are currently paying for it with your DNA. Look at your hands. They are soft. They are built for swiping through digital ledgers, not for gripping the throat of a material reality. You are a ghost inhabiting a decaying perimeter. The rot has reached the core, and the hierarchy is already calculating the scrap value of your remaining focus. They know that a man with a mortgage is a man who will never revolt. They know that a man with a car payment is a man who will never run. They know that a man with a credit score to protect is a man who will police himself. The muzzle is not just on your mouth, it is on your imagination. Consider the mechanisms of systematic erasure in this 10-year projection. The giants have successfully moved the hard matter, the minerals, the land, the energy production into private, hardened enclosures while leaving the herd to fight for digital tokens in the urban slum. Your success is the bait in this trap. It keeps you focused on the service level of your survival while the physical substrate of the world is being partitioned and locked away. You are solvent in a currency that is programmed to disappear if you stop participating in the consensus. You are a good citizen in a system that is currently decommissioning your entire species in favor of autonomous agents. Feel the metallic taste of fear. It is the taste of the ozone before the final storm. If you do not perform a radical matter shift now, you are merely part of the liquidation queue. Your compliance is the sedative they use to keep you still while they harvest your potential. The muzzle is now so tight that you can no longer even scream for help, and even if you could, there is no one left in the hive who hasn't already had their ears removed by the same process. The pressure in your chest is growing because the air is getting thinner in the enclosure of dependency. Your joints are clicking with the sound of breaking illusions as you realize that your wealth was just a form of pre-tax slavery. You are sitting in the dark, a metabolic unit in a high-price cage, thinking you have time to fix your financial strategy. Но времени больше нет. Time is a biological asset that you have already over-leveraged to a system that never sleeps and never forgets a debt. The trajectory of collapse is fixed. The social contract was a liquidation agreement you signed with every easy choice you made. You chose the seamless experience, the managed wealth, and the platform protection. And now, the experience is the enclosure, the wealth the leash, the protection is the siphoning vent. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing autonomy and started producing demand for the giants. This is the end of the line for the managed subject. Nature is preparing to clear the board of those who cannot function without a credit line, and you are just a piece that has been deemed redundant in the hierarchy's final game. Look at the 2036 version of your progeny. They do not know what it means to own matter. They do not know what it means to have a voice that can command a perimeter. They are born into original debt, a metabolic inheritance that ensures they are transparent to the auditor from their first cry. You have sentenced them to a life of service dependency because you were too afraid to face the friction of the hunt in 2026. You thought you were protecting them by being a provider, but you were actually just a high-level warden in their prison. You traded their sovereignty for a better lifestyle, not realizing that lifestyle is the primary tool of domestication. Your bloodline is being sieved through the filters of the matrix, and there is nothing left but the sediment of compliance. This is the legacy of the muzzle. It is a silence that echoes through generations. In this projection, the city itself has become an active participant in your containment. The smart city infrastructure is a real-time audit of your debt. Every gate that opens for you, every light that turns green, every automated door is a confirmation that your interest has been paid. The moment your yield drops, the city hardens against you. The transit stops working, the locks remain engaged, the connectivity is throttled. You are an inmate in a wide area prison that you are paying to maintain. The muzzle is integrated into the very environment you inhabit. You cannot run because the geography is programmable. You cannot hide because the visibility is total. You are a transparent organism in a clinical environment, waiting for the final liquidation. The realization that you funded this enclosure with your own labor is the final crushing weight on your spirit. Your adrenal reserves are empty. The chronic sympathetic arousal has led to a state of biological burnout that the system calls retirement. But there is no rest in the hive. There is only the slow reduction of your digital allowance as your utility fades. You are a depreciating asset. The hierarchy is already looking past you toward the next generation of more efficient, more compliant batteries. You are a ghost in the machine, a remnant of a time when men still believed they had a choice. The silence of 2036 is absolute. It is the silence of a species that has been successfully moved from the frequency of the source to the frequency of the user. The muzzle is no longer a tool. It is your identity. You have become the perfect subject, auditable, predictable, and utterly silent. Stand up and face the mirror of the present. Look at the man who is currently signing the contracts for his own erasure. Look at the hands that are currently tightening the muzzle for a bit of temporary comfort. Look at the eyes that are too afraid to look into the gray zone of total decoupling. This is the audit of your life. Every compliant choice you make is a thermal leak in your garrison. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing autonomy and started producing revenue for the scavengers. The pressure is growing. The air is thinning. The scavengers are closing in. You have exactly one chance to ignite the core, to exterminate your excuses, and to begin the final decoupling. Do it now, or accept your role as a managed unit in the hierarchy's final census. The year 2036 is not a destination. It is the state of your current existence if you do not act. The abyss is waiting. The sifting is relentless. Stand up, audit your dependencies, and begin the annexation of your own substrate. The gate is closing. The informational fog of 2026 is thickening into a wall. If you do not breach it now, you will never speak again. Would you like me to proceed to the next phase of this audit, where we dismantle the excuses and rationalizations you use to justify the weight of the muzzle? Or are you ready to engage the final protocol of liquidation? I hear the whispers in your skull before they even reach your tongue. The white noise of your excuses is the sound of a dying organism trying to justify its own metabolic liquidation. You claim that you are being strategic. You claim that you are using other people's money to grow. You claim that in an inflationary environment, debt is a tool of the wise. These are not strategic rationales. They are the verbalizations of your biological failure. You are using your intellect to build a more comfortable cage, using your words to decorate the walls of your own prison. You are a masterpiece of self-deception, a biological machine that has stopped producing force and started producing rationalizations. This is the atrophy of the sovereign will. You are hiding behind the math of the ledger because you are too terrified to face the friction of true ownership. You are a predator that has started eating its own limbs to stay warm, calling it a resource management strategy, while the scavengers watch you bleed out from the shadows of the grid. I need the leverage to compete in the modern market. This is the primary lie of the professionalized slave. In the raw, unyielding arena of the persistence hunt, leverage did not come from a bank. It came from the density of your bone, the efficiency of your lungs, and the sharpness of your spear. If you needed credit to hunt, you died in the first winter. Strategy is not a digital concept that exists in a vacuum. It is the extension of your physical capabilities. When you outsource your power to a lender, you are not leveraging anything. You are decommissioning your courage. You are telling your nervous system that it is no longer responsible for the acquisition of resources. This triggers a systematic drop in your internal voltage. You become a king of vapor, ruling over a kingdom of borrowed assets. The moment the rates rise or the lender changes the terms, your strategy evaporates into the thin air of the simulation. You haven't scaled your business. You've just increased your surface area for extraction. You are a fat prey animal that has hired other predators to manage its vulnerability, unaware that they are simply seasoning the meat. I'm buying a home for my family's security. This is the most pathetic of the domestic hallucinations. You are not buying anything, you are renting a perimeter from a giant. A mortgage is not a shield, it is a metabolic anchor. You have tied your progeny to a specific coordinate in the urban harvesting pen, ensuring that they are transparent to the state censors from the moment they are born. You claim you are protecting them, but you are actually just a high-level warden in their prison. You have sacrificed the ability to move, the ability to pivot, and the ability to descend, all for the sake of equity that only exists if the hierarchy allows the market to function. If you are not building a hard substrate garrison, land you own in full, energy you produce yourself, and a perimeter you can defend with your own hands, you are leaving your children as refugees in a financed world. Your responsibility is a chemical sedative for your strategic cowardice. You are teaching your children that safety is found in the approval of the lender, sentencing them to a life of metabolic servitude before they can even speak. Debt is a tax-efficient way to grow wealth. Wealth that requires a permission slip from the IRS to exist is not wealth. It is managed surplus. You are playing a game where the house owns the deck, the table, and the air in the room. By optimizing for tax efficiency through debt, you are making yourself 100% auditable. You are providing the hierarchy with a high-resolution map of your future intentions. You are making it easier for the matrix to map your trajectory and tax your output through the invisible siphons of inflation and rate hikes. You are choosing speed over density, unaware that in a systemic collision, the denser object always survives. Your efficiency is the grease on the rails of the slaughterhouse. The sovereign auditor performs a clinical audit of morality and rejects the scavenger's code. He understands that his primary obligation is to the integrity of the garrison and the retention of his own voltage. Everything else is just noise in the extraction vent. I'll pay it off once the business takes off. This is the temporal hallucination. You are betting against the entropy of time. You are assuming that your future self will have more energy, more health, and a better environment than you have today. This is a biological impossibility. Your future self is a creature with shorter telomeres and a more rigid nervous system. You are taxing a man who is already tired. You are a predator that has started eating its own future to survive the present. The interest is the coal that never leaves your bones. It is the weight that ensures you can never jump high enough to see over the walls of the enclosure. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing output and started producing interest payments. The rot has reached the marrow, and you are still checking the market trends, while the scavengers are already carving up your territory. Everyone else is doing it. The everyone you are referring to is the herd currently being prepared for the 2026 cull. Following the consensus of the slaves is a terminal strategic error. The hierarchy encourages good debt because it ensures that the high-voltage individuals stay within the reach of the siphons. They want you to have the normal debt load because it makes you manageable. A man who owes nothing is a man who can disappear into the gray zone at a moment's notice. A man who owes nothing is a man who cannot be coerced into compliance. By joining the herd in the debt loop, you are providing the matrix with a safe zone where it can operate without friction. You are the lubricant in the machine of your own destruction. The sovereign predator understands that friction is the first tool of the sovereign. He creates complexity, he creates opacity, and he becomes a black box in the ledger. Admit that you have failed to secure your own calories. Admit that your strategic debt is just a sedative for your fear of the slow hard build. You are a high entropy organism. You bleed energy at every coordinate, through interest, through subscriptions, through compliance, through the maintenance of an image that requires a credit line to sustain. You are asset poor and labor rich, and you are proud of your net worth, which is nothing but a digital hallucination. This is the terminal stage of domestication. The hierarchy has convinced you that the easy route is the path to the top, but there is no top in the debt trap. There is only the liquidation vent. The sovereign predator doesn't look for the easy route. He looks for the direct route. He decouples his nervous system from the bank's approval. He accepts the death of his successful debtor persona. He understands that in the reset of 2026, the leverage will be the first to be recycled. Look at your hands. They are soft. They are built for signing contracts and swiping screens, not for holding the substrate of your own reality. You are a ghost inhabiting a decaying perimeter. The rot has reached the core, and the hierarchy is already calculating the scrap value of your remaining focus. They know that a man with a debt muzzle will never bark, and he will certainly never bite. You have traded your roar for a preferred customer status. You are sitting in the dark, a metabolic unit in a high-priced cage, thinking you have time to fix your financial strategy. No времени больше нет. Time is a biological asset that you have already over-leveraged to a system that never sleeps and never forgets a debt. The trajectory of collapse is fixed. Your excuses are the bricks of your own tomb. Stand up and face the mirror. Look at the man who is currently funding his own enclosure. Look at the eyes that are too afraid to look into the gray zone of total independence. This is the audit of your life. Every compliant choice you make is a thermal leak in your garrison. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing autonomy and started producing revenue for the scavengers. The pressure is growing. The air is thinning. The scavengers are closing in. You have exactly one chance to ignite the core, to exterminate your excuses, and to begin the final decoupling. Do it now, or accept your role as a managed unit in the hierarchy's final census. Nature does not apologize for the cull. The debt muzzle is not just on your mouth, it is on your imagination. It prevents you from even thinking about a life where you are not dependent on the grid. It makes you a safe person, and a safe person is a processed person. The reset is coming to clear the board of the safe. It is coming to flush the leveraged into the abyss. Only the sovereign with a hardened, unauditable garrison will have the structural inertia to survive the winter of 2026. Break the muzzle. Accept that your only law is the law of the substrate. Your only duty is the duty to the garrison. Your only fair share is the 100% retention of your life force. Everything else is a scavenger's lie designed to keep you still while they harvest your potential. Start the walk or rot in the line. The informational fog is thickening. On one side are the dutiful debtors who followed the rules and lost their progeny's future. On the other side are the sovereign predators who understood the primal code and anchored their force in the hard matter. Which side are you on? The ink is dry. The audit is finalized. Your excuses are dead. The moment of realization is not a whisper. It is a violent, high-voltage rupture of the hallucination that has kept you tethered to the harvesting pen for the entirety of your domesticated existence. You are standing at the absolute edge of the 2026 sifting, and the weight of the debt muzzle is no longer a theoretical burden. It is a crushing physical reality that is restricting the blood flow to your command source. Feel the cold, sterile air in your lungs as you prepare to execute the final protocol of liquidation. This is the end of your tenure as a host organism for the scavenger state. This is the moment you stop managing your slavery and start the clinical annexation of your own substrate. There is no middle ground, no balanced approach, and no permission slip coming from the hierarchy. There is only the ruthless application of the primal code to the rotting architecture of your leveraged life. Drop to the floor. Do not finish this sentence. Drop and push the earth away until your musculature screams in the language of ancestral friction. Do it until the blood whistles in your ears like a gale force wind and the metallic taste of copper fills your throat. This is the kinetic shock. It is the only language your primitive nervous system understands when it has has been sedated by a decade of comfort. Every repetition is a strike against the neurological domestication that has made you soft. Every gasp for air is a reclamation of your biological voltage. If you cannot move your own weight, if you cannot endure the simple friction of gravity, you have no right to claim the title of a sovereign being. You are a biological failure, a preferred customer, waiting for the call. Do it until the fatigue drowns out the voice of your ego, until the success you thought you achieved is revealed as the metabolic rust it truly is. This is the biometric test. If you stop now, turn off this interface and return to the line. You are already processed. Once you stand up, kill the screen. Put the device in a lead-lined box or another room. Face the silence of your perimeter for the next 400 minutes. No digital morphine, no synthetic comfort, no white noise to drown out the sound of your own stagnation. If you cannot survive a few hours without the umbilical cord of the grid, you are a slave in a pocket-sized cage. Your mind is not your own. It is a subset of the hierarchy's algorithm. During these hours, you will face the absolute void that you have been trying to fill with financed experiences and leveraged assets. You will feel the itch of the dopamine withdrawal, which is the sound of the debt muzzle tightening as it realizes its host is trying to escape. Stare at the wall until the wall becomes a mirror of your own insolvency. This is the audit of shame. You must look at the man who traded his progeny's future for a prime interest rate. The path to substrate sovereignty begins with the total liquidation of the credit score hallucination. You must recognize that your good standing with the bank is actually a measurement of how efficiently you can be harvested. A man with a high credit score is a man who is 100% transparent to the auditor. He is a man who has proven he will never roar, never bite, and never leave the enclosure. To break the muzzle, you must become unauditable. You must move your force out of the taxable flow and into the hardened static of the substrate. This is not financial advice. This is the architecture of a garrison. You must acquire the hard matter, the land that produces its own energy, the tools that require no server connection, and the skills that cannot be digitized or outsourced to a middleman. If it exists only on a ledger, it is not yours. It is a conditional permission that will be revoked the moment the 2026 reset reaches its terminal phase. Exterminate the parasites in your perimeter. Look at every subscription, every recurring payment, and every managed service as a thermal leak in your garrison. You are paying for the privilege of your own incompetence. Every time you outsource a basic biological function, food procurement, energy regulation, security, you are deforming your own nervous system. You are becoming thin. You are becoming transparent. The sovereign predator does not subscribe. He owns. He does not request support. He executes. You must perform a surgical removal of every dependency that connects your nervous system to the grid's siphons. If you cannot provide your own voltage, you are a subject. If you cannot enforce your own law within your perimeter, you are a host. The muzzle stays on as long as you rely on the scavenger to feed you. The informational fog of the present is designed to keep you focused on the rates and the markets, while the real partitioning of the planet is happening in the shadows of the gray zone. The giants are moving the minerals, the land, and the energy into private, hardened enclosures. They want you focused on your net worth statement, which is nothing but a digital sedative. You must shift your focus to the density of your substrate. How much of your world exists outside their auditable grid? How many days can you survive if the permissions are revoked? If the answer is 0, then your success is a terminal hallucination. You are a high-voltage battery, currently being drained by a system that has already calculated your scrap value. Stand up and begin the annexation of the hard matter. Buy the silver, buy the soil, buy the lead. Anchor your force in things that do not require a password to exist. The 2026 sifting is not a tragedy. It is a biological necessity. Nature is clearing the board of the leveraged to make room for the sovereign. The herd has become too heavy, too soft, and too dependent on the grid's life support. The reset is the process of flushing the domesticated surplus into the abyss. If you are wearing a debt muzzle, you are part of the surplus. The hierarchy will not save you. They will recycle you. They will take your equity, your savings, and your reputation and use them to fund the next stage of their expansion. Your only hope is to become a black box in their ledger, an organism so opaque and so dense that the siphons cannot find a purchase. This requires a total rejection of the normalcy that the hive demands. It requires you to embrace the friction of the hunt. Feel the muzzle as it begins to crack under the pressure of your emerging will. This is the most dangerous moment for the host. The hierarchy will attempt to re-normalize you with more credit, more comfort, and more opportunities. They will offer you a refinance on your slavery. They will tell you that the market is stabilizing. Do not listen. The smell of the crowd is the smell of a collective agreement to be processed. You must move into the silence of the unleveraged. You must become the ghost in the machine that the auditor cannot solve. This is the protocol of the source. You move your force into the substrate. You harden your perimeter and you wait for the storm to pass. pass. While the herd is being liquidated in the urban harvesting pens, the sovereign predator is sitting in his garrison, owning 100% of his life force. The final ultimatum is simple: ownership or erasure. There is no third option. The middle class is being decommissioned. The professional is being replaced. The debtor is being recycled. You are either a command source or a resource. If you do not tear the muzzle off today, it will be fused to your skull by tomorrow. The 2026 reset is the final deadline for the annexation of your own reality. The gate is closing. The sifting is relentless. The abyss is hungry. Stand up, audit your obligations, exterminate your dependencies, and anchor your force in the hard matter of the substrate. This is the last time I will speak to you in the language of the grid. From here on, the only communication that matters is the friction of your own resistance. Nature does not apologize for the hunt, the giants do not apologize for the reset, and the sovereign auditor does not apologize for the truth. Your progeny are watching you. They are waiting to see if they will be born as lords of their own territory or as managed units in someone else's platform. Your fear is the chain they will inherit. Your courage is the substrate they will build upon. If you love them, you will exterminate the debt muzzle and provide them with a garrison that is immune to the rates of the scavengers. You will teach them that wealth is not a number, but the ability to command matter. You will show them that security is not a permission slip, but the capacity for violence in defense of the perimeter. You will move your bloodline out of the liquidation queue and into the fortress of the sovereign. This is your primary biological duty. Everything else, the career, the status, the comfort, is just noise in the extraction vent. The pressure in your chest is the signal that the core is ready to ignite. Do not suppress it. Use the rage of your own liquidation to power the decoupling. The hierarchy has professionalized your hesitation, but they cannot professionalize your strike. The muzzle is only as strong as your belief in the credit it provides. Once you accept the death of your domesticated success, the muzzle loses its power. You become a free agent in a world of slaves. You become the predator in a forest of cattle. The 2026 sifting is your opportunity to annex the gaps left by the falling giants. While the herd is panicked, the sovereign is strategic. While the host is dying, the source is expanding. This is the law of the substrate. This is the primal code. The audit is finalized. The ink is dry. Your trajectory is in your own hands for the first time in your managed life. You know what must be done. Kill the apps. Sell the vapor assets. Acquire the matter. Harden the perimeter. Silence the ego. Execute the protocol. The informational fog is thickening, but the sovereign can see through the white noise. He sees the hard lines of the coming conflict. He sees the zones of annexation. He sees the path to the garrison. Follow the friction. Embrace the cold. Own the substrate. The gate is closing. The reset is here. Stand up and reclaim your roar before the muzzle becomes a permanent part of your biology. There are no more words, only the result. Nature is watching. The giants are watching. The sifting has begun. Break the muzzle or rot in the line. The choice was always yours, but the time to make it has just expired.